So you can start recording, John.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Chamberlain.
Here.
Trustee Clayton.
Here.
Trustee Goldstein.
I'm here.
Trustee Haber.
I'm here.
Trustee Hollander.
Here.
Trustee Jamerson.
Here.
President Norris.
Here. We have a full board meeting, so we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes, the public hearing on the proposed formation of Special Service Area number 34. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Any other issues? Hearing none. Roll call.
Trustee Chamberlain.
You have to unmute, Cheryl.
Aye.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
And again, I apologize to everyone, but the new law does require that all votes on electronic meeting have to be roll call. Next item, approval of the Board of Trustees meeting from June 16th, 2020. Do I have a motion for approval?
I have one minor change.
Okay,
Under number 8, the word bright was changed to brought.
noting that change, do I have a motion for approval as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any further additions or corrections? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain.
Cheryl, you gotta unmute again.
Hi. Sorry, I was trying to unmute my space bar and it wasn't working.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Moving on, reports from staff, Director of Community Services.
No report.
Are there any questions for Rob? Hearing none, Plan Commission report.
Plan Commission did not meet this month.
All right, Treasurer's report. Treasurer is not here this evening. We haven't gotten the new numbers out. We've had changes with Joanne having left, etc. So Trustee Clayton, thank you, Mike. I wanted to say Mike, and that's too confusing. Trustee Clayton and I talked with the accountants about some adjustments we'd be making in the system and trying to plan out when we will be hiring the new director of accounting, etc. Since there's a lot of corporate memory there that we need to make sure gets picked up. It's not all written down, so we need to plan forward on that. Consultants then, Gowald Hamilton.
Only I did contact Lake County Division of Transportation about taking down the bike path signs along Deerfield Road. I haven't been out there yet to see if they came down. Bear in mind that the two that are at Portline, the bicycle pedestrian crossing signs that are mounted on the signal posts, those will remain. Those are there to alert motorists that there's a crossing there, but the small green bike signs will all come down.
Okay, I've got a question for you. The residents at 408 Palmer Court are kind of grumpy people. The lady of the house especially wanted to know when those holes in the street were going to be patched, or at least in the parkway where the water break was last month.
Yeah, we just we let it settle a bit. I'll get the landscapers out yet this week.
Okay, Cheryl, you had a question?
I just wanted to note, as long as we were talking about bike path, while the paths could use some repairs, I'm on the paths regularly, and while they could be in better condition, they're certainly usable.
Well, I will say I saw several people out on them over the long weekend, including the Friday that we had off, which still feels strange. I can't remember the last time a holiday wasn't on a Monday, but I had that. Are there any other questions for the engineer?
Maybe we ought to
use the term safety path
True.
rather than bike path, because these are not bike paths.
That is correct. They don't meet the official. So we have used that term in the past. We should go back to trying to remember to use that term.
And
Sorry,
I don't-
I ignored my own rule.
Yes, Mike.
I don't even know that we should call it safety path, because in my view, they're not safe.
Well, I knew that was coming, Mike, so you didn't disappoint, but
I walked
the closest term.
I walked them last night again,
yes,
and yes, they are definitely usable because I did traverse them, but they are not anything close to what they were. The width of them in some instances, I think as indicated by Pat himself last time we were there, sometimes it's not even more than a foot or 18 inches wide because of the overgrowth from, you know, the vegetation that is eaten into the blacktop and grown through the blacktop and basically taken the path down to like 18 inches wide. So it is not a good situation. And I, for one, if we're not going to fix them, I really think we should close them.
noted. All right, any other questions for the engineer? All right, village attorney?
Just a couple of things to update everyone on. I've gone through the Thornton's redevelopment agreement and placed a call. I had a conversation or two with the attorney for the developer for that site, GMX, just to make sure that they were still working away. I thought I might remind the board, because you know we lose track of time, especially now. The contract was executed March 17. The initial due diligence was 150 days, which comes out to August 15. And then they had some extensions. So they still are in the due diligence period. I asked them what they're doing, and they said that they've been putting together a budget internally, and then they've been sharing it. The developer has been with Thornton's because they have to negotiate their lease with Thornton's. So obviously they had some financial arrangements to try and make on their end, which was dependent on them getting a better handle on the cost. I suspect that once they get as far along with Thornton's as they can on the terms of the lease with Thornton, then they'll come back to the village to try and make all of that work financially. And we don't know what that is yet. They didn't, of course, want to share all of that with me, but that's what I suspect from what they're telling me. That's what I understand is going on in the background. I just wanted to share that with the board. So, you know, come August 15, I would expect that they would probably extend the due diligence unless they have a lot more information or ready to deal with us. But we'll see, just to give you an idea of where that is. Related to Thornton's in a way is that I've been looking at the draft audit that Miller Cooper put together. I've been exchanging a bunch of emails with Nathan, our interim finance director, and the auditors at Miller Cooper. I had some questions, some things I wasn't sure about. One of the items was they showed an amount deposited to the TIF account, which I thought was high. And then I went and looked at the tax bills and researched it, and it wasn't high. So to share with you this information, the year before any construction was going on the CubeSmart, before it was really under construction, sort of the last year that was a flat year. And I'm not really going back to the base year, but the taxes were $23,000 in rough numbers. In 2019, the taxes were $89,000 and change. And so the amount that was deposited to the Riverwoods TIF account was $65,768. When I first saw that number in the audit, I said, "Oh, that can't be right," but it is. And in fact, the 2019 tax bill is out, which will be payable this year. And the amount shown as increment coming to the village is $68,617. So we're starting to get increment in from CubeSmart, more significant at first than I thought, which is wonderful. And what we can discuss doing, and I'm sure Nathan will have suggestions about this, we've advanced some monies to the TIF fund over and above the initial advance for the property acquisition. Probably my suggestion would be is that we repay those amounts first back to the general fund, and then eventually we'll have to start applying the increment to the repayment of the note, which was the original intent. So I thought I would just mention that to you, that in terms of the audit, the other questions I had are, just usual. How are some things coded? Where are some things located? Just a few questions. The next thing I wanted to just mention to you briefly, Brushwood sent us a draft letter agreement that was very simple. It had attached to it the schedule of events that they had proposed. I only had two small suggested changes. I don't know, John, if you've had a chance to share that with them. One is I talked to our insurance agent and asked what their advice was, and they gave me advice about the type of insurance we should suggest. And the other was just to make sure that any intellectual property that they bring over to the village, they talked about curating some events and having art and things like that, that they take care to make sure that they have rights to use those things, especially if it's on village property. Just sort of a simple representation as to that. The village occasionally has gotten these kind of nasty letters that intellectual property firms send to us where we've inadvertently used an image or done something where we weren't paying attention to copyright. So I had the idea of just mentioning that. Other than that, there's nothing significant to add to the letter agreement. The last thing I have is just to let you know.
Before you go on that, could I get a copy of that before we sign off on it, please?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Oh, I would bring that all to the board anyway. Don't worry about it, Mike. Certainly you'll get a copy, but the rest of the board will.
Because we passed that, I think we passed the resolution last.
Well, to go forward with it, but I think I still want the board to have recognition of what the agreement actually says, because we agreed in purpose, but specifics are always important to review.
Lastly, we've published a notice for a zoning board of appeals hearing on a variation. The ZBA would be a virtual on July 30, and we'll try and get details out to the board so you're aware of it. It concerns a house, I think it's a home under construction or about to be constructed, that would have a driveway less than 20 feet from the property line, and petitioner wants to explain the reasons why that should be granted. That's all I have.
Any questions for the attorney? All right, village ecologist is not here this evening. Police report.
You're muted, Bruce.
The police activity since the last meeting is in your packets. Activity has picked up again since the stay-at-home order ended. You'll notice that we still haven't written any ordinance violations. A couple reasons for that, other than just that things have been a little slower. Number one is last year, probably the number one ticket we wrote as an ordinance violation were cell phone violations. But the state has since made cell phone violations a moving violation. So we cannot take moving violations to administrative hearing. The second most written ticket that we write for admin court are, or now the most that we write are expired registrations, because those are not movers and we can write those for admin court. But the Secretary of State has extended everybody's registration renewals. So there are people who technically have expired plates, but they're giving them time, I think, until October to get them renewed. So we're not writing those either. Additionally, back on May 11th at about 1:30 in the morning, an officer tried to stop a car for a traffic violation at Lake Cook and Saunders after it had pulled out of Thorngate, and the car did not stop. He followed it to the tollway, lights and siren, the car wouldn't pull over, so the officer did not pursue. We don't pursue for nonviolent offenses, basically. We were able to go back with video from a car camera from one of our officers who had just driven through Thorngate before that happened, and were able to find out which driveway the car was in. He was a visitor. He had a relative at that address. Prior to getting a warrant on June 30th, an officer in that car coming out of that house. and was able to block the street and stop the car this time. And at that point, the driver was arrested for a warrant out of DuPage County that we knew the driver had, as well as driving while suspended and having no registration and no proof of insurance. Additionally, he was cited for the May 11th events. He was cited for that day for fleeing and eluding, driving while license suspended, and no valid registration and proper lane usage. So it took a few months, but we did get him. And that's all I have.
All right,
Nicely
any
done.
other questions for the chief? Okay, hearing none. Moving forward, information items and comments from the president. First, you all have had a chance, I hope, to look at the guidelines that we're leaving in place now during Restore Illinois Phase 4. We are still permitted to maintain the distancing. As I noted in both my information item and in the policy itself, we have too many elected officials, staff, and members of families who are fitting into the high at-risk categories for me to go in another direction on that. So we will stay with that. Obviously, I am here this evening and intend to be, if I'm not here, speak with the clerk and we'll work down the order so that we will always have a representative here as necessary. We are monitoring the email, and as I say, if circumstances allow and warrant, we might allow comment otherwise. A little reluctant to do that, but in some ways, maybe I shouldn't be. I probably have more control here over people being able to speak than I do in an actual board meeting. If anyone has any questions or problems, recommendations in relation to the policy, please let me know. Obviously, we want to make this work in the most transparent but safe way. Yes, Cheryl?
I think we should promote that it's on Zoom and that people can access. So perhaps in the Village Voice on our website.
It is on the website, et cetera, and it's the agenda are posted there as well. So, but we can make it a note. I will be putting it on the electronic sign when and if that ever gets there. I know the foundation's there.
Yeah, so we're within our time frame. They had said, you know, they told us up front it would be at least 90 days.
Right.
It's curing right now, and they're doing construction back at the shop while that's curing.
That's right. Okay. Moving on then, we have submitted an update for 2020 to the Riverwoods Affordable Housing Plan. I believe council provided everybody with copies of that.
Not yet, I meant to.
You did not do it yet. Okay, I thought I saw that you'd circulated it. Primarily, it reflects that the area where the police station is no longer available. That was once listed as possible site for affordable housing. It re-emphasizes, though, that we have talked with people, and the comprehensive plan shows affordable housing on Milwaukee as a potential use. So we still don't have the 15% that is our target goal and was before. But the reality is there's nowhere in Riverwoods that we could really put affordable housing given the cost of real estate other than along Milwaukee. And that is part of our plan at this point.
I just wanted to, if I could, John.
Sure.
When we took the plan, we took the existing plan and we just tried to update sections based on more current information. And the original plan was filed in 2005. We had projections about the number of new homes versus teardowns. And the formula for what constitutes new housing, a teardown doesn't count. So tear down a house, put up a new house, that's not, at the time it wasn't, since I don't think it's changed, it wasn't part of the goal. The goal was 15% of new housing units. That's why it's such a challenge for us. We just haven't had a lot of new housing units. I asked Rob Durning to go back and check. We averaged about 2 homes a year in 15 years from teardown activity. And when I looked to see how many new lots had been created on which there were actually new homes that couldn't have been there before because the lots were new, I think we only found 2 or 3 new homes resulting from subdivisions since 2005. There had been a number of subdivisions in 2002, 3, 4, but actually since 2005, I was surprised there weren't. So we just have had a very limited number of new lots created where there could be new housing units.
Right then, any questions? No. The Rebuild Illinois grant application on the terms directed by the board of 100% on the grant has been submitted. We did get support letters from 3 of our 4 Illinois representatives. So again, we'll see what we can do there. Then something I get to do this evening, it won't be quite as pleasant as it normally is since we're doing this over Zoom, but as I've said on those occasions before, being able to read a proclamation honoring and recognizing one of our young people is one of the best parts of this job. And tonight I'm able to issue a new proclamation. Some people said reissue, but I think new achievements rate a new proclamation, in this case for Cody Goodman. So if I may, whereas Cody Goodman, his father Drew, his brother Caden, and his sister Kylie are residents of the village of Riverwoods. And whereas Cody Goodman, while a senior at Deerfield High School, placed second in the 2020 Illinois High School Association, I can't remember it anymore, getting too old, Class 2A state wrestling tournament in the 195 weight class. And whereas Cody Goodman has been supported and encouraged by his siblings, his father Drew, and coaches Cohn, Kepke, and Pector. And whereas Cody Goodman has served as captain of the wrestling team during both his junior year and senior year at Deerfield High School. And whereas Cody Goodman has already achieved many significant milestones, including record holder for the most number of wins in a season, record holder for the most number of career wins, state and national record holder for the fastest pinning of an opponent, and a scholarship to the University of Illinois. Be it therefore known that as mayor of the village of Riverwoods, I proclaim July 8th, 2020 as Cody Goodman Day in the village of Riverwood in honor and recognition of his achievements as an outstanding amateur wrestler in the state of Illinois and a student at Deerfield High School. Signed the 7th day of July. Cody, congratulations to you, obviously to your father as well, and the rest of your family. Your continued achievements are remarkable, especially being able to hold the record for pinning somebody that quickly. That's not always an easy thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Well, again, you've earned it, and I'm always very, very happy to do this. I only wish that I couldn't be here to shake your hand and hand it to you personally, but we will get it to you.
Hopefully, thank you. Hopefully, I'll be back with some college accolades.
Well, for those of us that went to Champaign, you should have a good time down there anyway.
Yes.
Don't tell your father I said that, of course.
It's okay, Mayor. He's a good old boy.
So I'm a fourth generation Illini, so I can tell you where to go as need be. Although everything that was there when I went is closed. All right then.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for taking the time to honor my son once again, and hopefully there'll be a few more for you and the board to enjoy.
Well, Drew, again, everybody on the board shares this with me. I'm the one that gets the privilege of being able to read the proclamations and normally shakes the hands. But with the crazy world we're living in right now, it's that much better to have something good to talk about. And a young man like Cody is one of those good things. So,
well, he'll give you a paint check on the handshake and a bear hug.
I don't know if I want the bear hug. He might hurt me. I'm old.
Anyone's messing with the village, we'll send them out there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Great job.
Good night.
Okay, thanks.
Then finally, something that came in yesterday was the crime insurance renewal change. As I noted, it's the dollar amounts other than for Hartford are within my ability to approve it. the recommendation is for the IMR, which is half of the travelers. The one benefit travelers would have is that they were going to guarantee it for 3 years. But since we're starting at half of the other amount, it's going to be unlikely that we would not be able to be ahead of that in any event. So if any of you have any objections to it or would like to bring it up, yes, Mike?
I just have a question. Are we thinking about doing the cyber insurance? I know there was a separate cyber insurance quotation, which included cyber extortion.
Yes, that's all part of the package still.
It is, because that looked like it had a I mean, I'm all in favor of that, just so that you know, but
Oh, yes.
it looked like it had a separate premium.
I will double check that, Mike, because it is supposed to be included.
Right. The way I read it, that it was a separate premium, but the way it all works out, that we still save on that, but absolutely we need that.
Yes, I totally agree. That's too much of what's out there now not to.
Yeah, because this premium was indicated as $26.89, whereas the total premium for the other insurance was less than that. So it doesn't make sense. So I don't think this is really included in the policy.
I'll double check it. If it's not, then we'll relook at the numbers to make sure, because you're right. It is interesting to see it be that much lower. And frankly, the retention is lower. So I'm curious. So I will double check that. Thank you for both pointing it out again.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or objections about the insurance policy? Yes, Mr. Clayton. Mike, you're on mute.
Not the insurance. I have another question.
Oh, okay. Are there any on the insurance? Okay, then Mike, whatever your question.
We received a request to sign a petition from Dora Guao, if I'm saying that correctly, concerning activities at Stevenson High School. And I was just wondering if we're going to have any kind of a coordinated response to her request. Just incidentally, she's the winner of the National Distinguished Young Woman of America Award.
Mike, let's talk about that during the week, because I'm not remembering exactly what she sent. So there are a lot of things that have been coming across lately, and I apologize. It sounds like I should have paid closer attention. So let's talk about that tomorrow if we may, and then I can give you a more reasonable answer.
Could we understand though, I haven't seen that. Did that come by an email, or how did that get brought to the
It was in my email.
Okay.
I think everyone received an email. She's a student at Stevenson, and it has to do with Stevenson administration and how they're addressing matters relating to Black students. And they have a student-generated petition, and they would like our support for the petition.
Do we know who sent that email, just so I can search my inbox?
Was their last name G-U-O, I believe?
It's G-U-O.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, this one I'm not remembering actually seeing, because there was another one that requested something along those lines. Maybe I conflated the two and didn't pay enough attention to this one. So Mike, let me look at it.
If
Yes,
someone
Rick?
could forward that maybe to me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, Mike, if you would, since you have a copy.
I'll do
forward
that.
it.
I'll do that, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't think we have any Open Meetings Act problems with that, since we've mentioned it here and we're just not discussing it. It's just to recognize that the email's there. Okay, any other questions? If not, Chief, anybody wishing to address the board? No emails, no one's rung the doorbell. So we don't have any visitors wishing to address the board.
John, this is David.
Oh, yes.
Let me just inform the board that on July 29th, RPC is sponsoring a virtual event in which Steve Zimmerman, Patrick Glenn, and Mike Werner from Lake County Stormwater will participate for about an hour, and the focus is Riverwoods water too much, too little. So it's a community event to try and get the community aware of their ditches, their gullies, their responsibilities, how to manage the wetland, etc. Try and keep it to an hour. So just wanted you all to know.
Great. Well, we'll definitely publicize that, since everybody here manages the stormwater just as everybody has to manage the woodland. So we need everybody on board.
Thank you.
Okay, then moving on to action items. Approval of the appointment of Richard Kumjian Kumjian to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I didn't attach a resume because I think everybody knows Rich. My preliminary memo said that he had served a very long time with the village because it said 2009 to 213. And while I accuse Rich of being old, he's not that old, but Rich has been very active. So I am nominating him and ask the board to confirm the appointment of Richard Kumjian to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So do you need a motion for that?
Yes, yes. That you,
I will make a motion that we approve the appointment of Rich Kumjian to Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Second.
all right, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain,
Aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein,
Aye.
Haber,
Aye.
Trustee Hollander,
Henry, you're...
Aye.
Thank you.
and Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that was the biggest controversy I thought of the night. So the second item is approval of the settlement with Comcast.
Scott, do we have any other open positions in either the plan or zoning?
I'm sorry, could you say it again, Henry?
Other open positions in plan or zoning?
Open positions, yes, there is one more still on the zoning board. So again, any recommendations would be very happily received. Moving on then, approval of the settlement with Comcast and resolution of the franchise fee audit conducted by the Village of Riverwoods. You may remember we retained Avazar, I believe it is, to do the review. They found that we were owed approximately, I'd have to look at it, several $1,000s. This council has reviewed this, noted it's in line with the other settlements with Comcast on this type of matter. So I think this should be approved. Bruce, do you want to add anything? And then I'll get to yours.
Yeah, I would just say approve subject to village attorney approval. They're to make a change that makes it clear that we don't have to make a confidentiality covenant that would violate the Freedom of Information Act. When I asked them about this, they said, oh yes, Comcast has a whole way of rephrasing this section. Would you like us to plug that in? And they said something very nasty to the attorney. I haven't heard from him since, but yes, I said I would like to have that.
Bruce, you just have to learn to be nicer.
Alternate B planned.
Mr. Jamerson.
We have to pay as of our something. What do you know what the percentage is? Is it 50? Is it 33?
It's a percentage of that savings, and I think it's about 33%. I don't.
That strikes me as what it was. I'll have to take a look at it again. But again, they did all of the work. We just are getting the extra money. So
the total amount.
Bruce and I said we should look that up before the meeting. We knew somebody was going to ask, and apparently neither one of us did.
The total amount that they detected as savings was $6,000.
So is there any further discussion? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain,
Aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein,
Aye.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. There's no old business. Standing committee reports, Trustee Haber.
I do not have anything to report.
All right. Trustee Chamberlain.
I'll be meeting tomorrow via Zoom with some people from Brushwood to see if we can move forward the Branding and Education Committee's idea to have kind of a flora identification walk. And we could do it hopefully this summer so that we could take advantage of the good weather.
Trustee Jamerson.
We do not have a building report just because of all the changes in personnel we've had in the last 30 days.
Yeah, I tried to run one and it wasn't right, so we figured we wouldn't give you bad information.
But I do, separately, I want to just say that the sign project that Cheryl alluded to earlier in the meeting, the electric is up to the sign and ready to be connected as soon as the sign gets put on its base. At the corner, the rest of the sign locations have been staked out, and I think Pat was trying to work with the county to make sure that they were okay with the locations as well, because some of them are in their right of way, which they are very protective of. And then the project on the campus is moving along. There's been no major glitches at this point, so it's moving along.
Rick, did you get
Can
any-
I ask, oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Cheryl. Go ahead.
Can I ask, Rick, did you get anywhere with figuring out how we are taking out the sign portion from the Klaus contract?
No, but I'm
Okay,
working.
we'll get to that.
So what Cheryl's alluding to is that the sign for the Village Hall is actually currently in 2 contracts, and we need to pull it out of one of them. And my guess is we're going to pull it out of Klaus's contract and just have the sign guy build us individually for that one sign, because that is getting paid for by the grant. So I need to review that with Bruce and with Ben from the architect that's working with us on that project.
Bruce, or not Bruce, excuse me, Rick, were you able to talk with the sign company about whether it would be possible to salvage at no cost some of the signs?
Not since your email, but I did send you an email back. The signs are in really poor shape.
Understood.
I did send him an email telling him that we wanted to try and salvage what we could. I did not hear back from him.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I will communicate with
Yeah,
him.
actually, when we were walking around, we talked to him about salvaging the signs if possible. And even when, you know, Rick or I went up and touched the signs, pieces were falling off. So it may not be possible.
Yeah, I had requested that Rick and Cheryl check to see if we could save any of the signs, on the idea that either some of you might want one as a souvenir, assuming somebody will let you bring it in the house as big as they are, or we might be able to even auction or raffle them off in some way as memorabilia. Just if it raises the cost to do it, though, that sort of shoots it down too. And if they're falling apart, I'm not sure how it would work anyway, but that's what we're talking about.
I'll double back with him and ask him the question, but I will tell you that I didn't realize how large those signs are until you stand next to one. They're about 4 feet wide and about 3 feet tall, which they don't look like when you're driving by, but they're huge.
No, I recognize that, but that's why I say whether or not everybody will be allowed by their spouse, significant other to bring one home is always a question.
I have a question.
Yes.
And this is, you know, as we're talking about this, it just kind of makes me think, do we have, you know, I know we don't in the village have an archivist, but should we be thinking about having a program or a policy or something about archiving historical documents, things, you know, in the village? And it would seem to me that maybe one of these signs would be a good first step, even if you had to take parts of all of them to create one decent one that you could then archive potentially for, you know, future history of the village. I don't know if it's important to anyone else, but, you know.
Oh, Mike, I was a history major. It is important to me. I've got most of the history materials in my desk right now. Irene had been doing it before she moved. And I'm looking for anyone to take over as I move on. I'll talk with Daphne about what records she may have as well. But I think that's not a bad idea at all, because I agree with you, and that was part of the idea with the sign, to try and keep what we can with some of this. Certainly we don't necessarily need all of them, but yeah, a lot of things have gone by the way, especially with this crazy village. I'm glad that Vern Rutter wrote a good history a number of years ago. Cheryl?
Yeah, I was given a suitcase full of historical Riverwoods documents. And I gave it to Irene. I know that she put some of them on our drive digitally. As far as the original documents, I do not know what she did with them, but it was really literally a whole suitcase full.
Well, I didn't receive that many from her, and I got a few from Linda Dunn, but we'll check. They may still be in the files, and we'll look at what we do have electronically. Trustee Goldstein, see, we're not forgetting you, Eric. It just takes a while.
No report.
Trustee Hollander.
Just two things. The Deerfield road project met a couple days after our meeting 2 times ago. 2 items which I thought were of interest. One is the county did say that they were going to go with the larger or more modern drainage plan with increased capacity. And second, they estimate that the first potential road construction that's outside utilities would not begin until the early 2024. That utilities might occur in fall of 2023, but the actual traffic issues wouldn't be until 2024.
So you all may remember that the first firm date we had, I think, was 2020. So these things do slide. Trustee Clayton.
The mayor had referred to earlier about a meeting we had with Nathan, and one procedural change that we're going to be proposing is that instead of reporting on our financial results at the second board meeting of every month, we're going to move that out another 2 weeks and report the a full month later. But we're going to release the reports to the board ahead of time so that anyone who has questions or wants to follow up on a particular item, we can do so before we actually discuss them at a board meeting, and then we can kind of have a more informed discussion, and it gives us a chance to take a harder look at the financial statements in the 3 days that we have before the second board meeting of the month. And the second thing I had was that just looking back at the Dora Guo email, she did not address it to the mayor. And as far as Trustee Haber is concerned, she misspelled his name. So John, that's why you didn't get that.
I feel much better. Thank you, Mike. Yes, and I will point out too that if any of you want to see the data sooner, obviously just say so and we'll let you see it immediately. You're entitled to see it whenever you ask. We're just trying to give you a more finished product with a little more time to look at it rather than just get something and have to fly with it. I know of no reason to go to executive session. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order? Hearing none, then the next meeting will be July 21st, 2020. Everybody stay healthy. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Chamberlain.
Aye.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Goldstein.
Aye.
Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Aye.